Well, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you were able to take a couple minutes out of your day here to join me and really have this sort of mini discussion around something that I'm very passionate about, but it's also great when you see others coming into a discussion like this, you know they're a bit passionate about it as well. And well, we're going to hop right into it. You know, I definitely value your time, so I want to make sure we keep it to a mini discussion and it doesn't become too much time taken up. And so we really want to take the discussion around the idea of conversational leadership and increasing your C factor. Now, I definitely want to go into what we mean by C factor, and then why it's important, and then again, how we can do it, practical ways that we can go ahead and increase our C factor. But, you know, conversational leadership is this sort of subset of building your ability to communicate as a leader. And the C factor was a term that was brought to me by a good friend of mine, Andrea Lau. He is the owner of Skill Gym and based out of Switzerland. They have really become leaders in the sense of focusing on developing conversational mastery. And I absolutely love it because, well, let's look at it this way, and we're getting into the why. The C factor is this ability to really perform in conversation, in interactions with people, to crush the most critical conversations we have: feedback, delegating, prioritizing, negotiating, optimizing, all these sorts of conversations. And your ability as a leader to really perform in that conversation is your C factor. Now, why is it important? Well, let's look at sort of this pie chart here. Now, I didn't just come up with these numbers. These are kind of numbers that are from research that we see that the majority of a day of a manager or leader is going to be spent here. 80% of your day is in communicating. 80% of your day is in communicating. And so the reason why we want to increase your C factor, one reason, leverage, efficiency. We want to make total use of where you put most of your time and energy. We don't want to train necessarily. We're not focused on training this small subset. You could train there, but we want to train here where you're going to be getting the most bang for your buck, the biggest ROI on your training efforts. And so it's leverage as a reason. There's also another reason why. There's also another reason why you want to increase your C factor, and that's because of the types of conversations that you have in that 80%. It's about generating empowerment within your team. It's a big, powerful word, empowering team members. And there's 4 types of conversations you typically have that do empower. So let's look at this graph we've got here. I'm going to go ahead and go this way. Yeah, we'll go down here this way, and then up in this way, and then we sort of go boom, bam. Perfect. All right? Now, in each of these 4 quadrants, there is a type of a category of conversation. So what we have in the first one is the conversation of one to inspire. Conversations that inspire team members. Well, those are conversations where you get to share your vision. You get to sort of show some bravery, because to inspire others means you're stepping out on a ledge. You're taking this sort of role, and you're okay that if it doesn't always come out, you're being an inspiration to someone else. A little bit brave to be that person in somebody else's life. We also often see these conversations as, discussions around possibilities, what somebody can achieve. It's about motivating them to work better with their peers or to manage somebody better. And so we have conversations that inspire. We also have conversations that support. A lot of times these conversations, they come when there's a sort of organizational change. When something's going on, a person has left and a new person has come in. And to support, we take on that role of being a coach. And we know that the top managers today are often ones that coach really well. And so this kind of conversation is about support. It's about guiding other people. And we see these conversations come up to help lessen stress. When you can support somebody, you reduce frustrations, you can solve conflicts, you can help overcome obstacles. So supporting is another very empowering conversation that you can solidify leadership in. We also have conversations that we would put into this zone as the discover. Conversations that discover, conversations that are about listening, conversations that are about improving the way we're doing things, processes. And you'd often see them in sort of, helping somebody find out their uniqueness, their strengths, what they do well. If you're onboarding a new person, you discover how they fit best with the team, how they can work all together and collaborate. All right? It might also be a type of conversation to align your approach or align your initiatives with someone, discover how we can sync up together, right? And you might also discover a new way of doing things, innovate, new approaches, new methods of doing things. And so we've got important conversations here as well. And the last area of an empowering conversation would be conversations that discuss about leading, taking that forward role. Yes, we also follow at times, but at times we have to lead. At times we have to lead. At times we have to provide clarity and direction. The company wants to go this way. It's my job as their leader to provide clarity around that direction. And if I don't have it, to go get it for people. Okay? It's also about generating compliance. Generating compliance. Well, when somebody follows you, okay, which is a great honor, they're basically saying, I will comply with what you're asking me to do. And so we have conversations that often ask for compliance. If you've ever delegated a task to somebody, you're asking them to comply with what you are giving them in the sense of a task to do. Okay? So why work on your C factor? Well, leverage. You spend most of your day communicating, so you want to be really good in that area. And then second of all, it holds the key to empowering. And conversations have such an ability to empower by just looking at these 4 areas right here. So hopefully you've generated sort of the motivation to continue working with me here and writing some things down, because now we want to move on a little bit. We've got the C factor. Okay, I'm going to erase just so I got enough room up here. And so when we talk about how, it's moving from knowledge to experience. Okay, that's where we want to get to. We want to get to experience. And knowledge is great at the beginning of our trips. We want to go and invest in trainings and understandings and new ways to communicate and identifying what nonverbal means and how to do that. But we have to move from just knowledge to experience. And you can often see it in a graphic that's sort of like this. If these little circles here represent all the little bits of knowledge that we sort of collect along the way, experience is sort of the interconnectedness of these bits of knowledge, the ability to kind of bring them together, to sync them up, and to sort of create much more than just knowledge and put it into play. And when we talk about experience, it really comes down to a simple concept, and a concept that I am very familiar with from my days of a professional athlete. That's practice. Practice, practice, practice. We used to say practice makes permanent. Doesn't make perfect, but it makes permanent. And so we want to talk about practice, okay, and sort of why we have to kind of get practice in. And this is what it's all about on the how. How do we do it? We have to practice, but we have to create the conditions for effective practice. Now, how do you increase your 4? All right, we're going to start off with number 1. Now, number 1 here seems pretty obvious. Number 1s usually are pretty obvious. But number 1, how to go ahead and increase is you're going to have to try. You're going to have to try. Again, it's obvious. Well, of course I'm going to try it. Well, sometimes we don't try things. We don't try things on, and we usually become static, or we sort of become paralyzed due to things like fear. And fear is often said as false evidence appearing real. That's what fear stands for. And so we sometimes don't try because we fear that maybe we're putting effort in the wrong area. We fear that maybe we won't be respected. We fear that maybe we'll never be good enough for it. And so we sort of just stop ourselves before we can go any further. And so the first way, how, is you got to try it. You got to try it. How are you going to know if it worked or not if you don't try? And at some point in your life, I'm sure everybody has had that sort of feeling But I'm sure also if you can connect with a time that you sort of got through that fear, tried something, and now it just becomes natural. It's something you do. And so I really want to emphasize number one is going to be to try. All right, let's move on to number two. Second way you can increase your C factor. Have a workout plan. All right, a workout plan. Now I'm going to draw on a lot of things I learned from my days as a professional athlete, because we had lots of workout plans and training, skill training, those sorts of things I'm very familiar with. And so in our workout plan, the reason why we get a workout plan is to get organized. We want to get organized. And we've got to get a trainer. Now, when I say get organized, it's about figuring out what it is you want to do, what you want to accomplish, what it is you want to really be making gains towards, okay? So we got to get organized. We also need to get ourselves a trainer. Now, that doesn't mean just a person, okay? A trainer is also your where you would go and do the training. If you're looking to increase endurance or muscle mass or something like that, you would probably go find a gym that has the capabilities for you to do that. And so we've got to go ahead and get a trainer, a mode for training, okay? An environment that allows us to it. So in our workout plan, this is sort of the objective, to get organized and get a trainer. So let's talk about getting organized. What does getting organized really mean? Well, getting organized is also about getting focus. And where we want to focus, we've all heard this before, the 80-20 rule. Everybody sort of heard that, whether it's in customer service or sales, and we're talking about the 80-20 rule. We want to focus on the 20% that it's going to give us 80% of the return. Focus on the 20 that gives us the 80. Now, when we're talking about that and getting focused, when it comes to conversational mastery and developing your C factor, okay, we want to focus on one of those quadrants, right? One of 4 quadrants, not all 4. You've got to get focused. This is why a trainer can also be very helpful to you as well, is to really sort of identify, are you good at inspiring? Well, then you don't necessarily need to train and work on that. Are you good at discovering? Okay, maybe you need help in the support area. And there are several conversations that fall into that support area. And so we want to get focused on what is going to give us our biggest return. Again, we're talking about efficiency, and we have to get focused. So another part of our workout plan, we're talking about getting organized, is what are we going to measure? Right? What are we going to measure? What are we going to look at and say, okay, this is how I will know? We measure things. If you don't measure it, it doesn't matter. So we have to find something to measure. And I can tell you the 2 areas that I would propose to you as measuring. 2 areas, one being confidence and the other being self-awareness. Okay? Confidence and self-awareness. Confidence being that comfort level in any situation, that ability to know that you can perform or that you're equipped with what you need to. Self-awareness is sort of that real understand, kind of like getting what's going on. That there's not this big disconnect between how I felt the conversation went and how the other person perceived it. And we oftentimes see that a lot in managing things like conflict, where you come to a resolution and there's a difference. They just didn't sync up. That I was thinking something else and you were, so we weren't really aware of what was going on or aware that we hadn't reached an agreement. And so self-awareness is that sort of that EQ, that next level leadership. Okay, and oftentimes. We can forget some of those simple areas. And we're going to dive into self-awareness first here. Okay, so self-awareness, again, being that sort of that understanding prior to regulating. EQ is broken up into awareness and regulation. You can't regulate something that you're not aware of. So we want to track how aware we are of what's going on, because then it becomes very natural. okay? And it's sort of like, it's self-awareness sort of comes into the back of the head, like you understand it, right? Like the awareness comes in, it mixes around with everything in the cerebral, and then it comes out in the form of communication. And we can grow our self-awareness. We can become more self-aware. And so we want to measure how aware we are of what we're doing. Did I get that conversation right? Did I get it right at the beginning, at the middle, at the end? Oh, at the end is where I've been struggling a little bit enough. Okay, so once I'm aware of it, I can really regulate myself to really focus in on the end of a specific conversation. Let's talk about confidence. Now, confidence is something that I put into an equation. That's the know-how, okay, plus purposeful repetition multiplied what we just talked about, awareness, okay? Your awareness of improving. This equals confidence. For instance, when I was playing, my goal, not necessarily conversational mastery, might have been to score more goals. I want to score more goals. Well, I had to increase my confidence in my ability, okay? I wanted the coach to move me from someone on the bench to someone on the field. And the only way he was going to do that is if I really had the confidence that he put me in there, that I was going to do my job. And so I had to have know-how. How do you strike the ball this way? How do you strike it with both feet? How do you strike it with your back to goal? How do you strike it when the ball's flying this way? I had to develop some knowledge and know-how. But then I had to add that know-how with purposeful repetition. I had to go with people and practice over and over and over again in these different situations and repeat and repeat and repeat. Now, once I had the knowledge and once I went and had purposeful repetition, I multiplied that by sort of the awareness of improving. I could see myself, because then I go into a practice or a scrimmage and I saw myself, oh, the ball came in and usually, I would have taken an extra touch or gone this direction. Then I went ahead and I brought it down and would strike it into the goal. And sort of the goals start coming up. You're scoring more goals in training and you're scoring more in these scrimmages. Well, that's generating my confidence so that when he puts me into the match, boom, late in the match, 88th minute, 90th minute, I'm there and able to score. So if we want to measure confidence and self-awareness, that's important in our workout plan as well, okay? Now another aspect of our workout plan, we've already talked about a couple. We want to get focused, okay? We want to get focused, we want to have something to measure, but we also want to seek unbiased feedback. We want to seek unbiased feedback. Okay? And this is very tough for humans. This is very tough. It's probably one of the toughest, but I can tell you it's the highest impact, is to seek unbiased feedback. Now, one reason it's tough is because as humans, we're not a really good judge of others at times. And so it's very hard for us to give unbiased feedback, but it's also something we don't really actively go and seek out. We're not looking for it. It can become kind of one of those, I'm not sure what I'm going to hear. I'm not sure if I'm going to be okay with it. Or do I really trust somebody to give me that unbiased feedback? But we have to seek it. Now, what I want to talk about is a couple of strategies, okay? A couple of strategies to do it. And it's in the form of the digital platform, the digital role play. You want to go digital. And then also through a coach. Now I say digital because, it's a computer. It doesn't have emotion, didn't get to know you, didn't go out to lunch with you, doesn't know your history. And so when you use a digital platform to sort of get the feedback on how you did in a conversation, you're just getting the raw data. You're getting just what's coming from the system, what the algorithm shows and says that you did. And so it's a great way. That's probably the most unbiased. Slightly more biased would be a coach. But a coach isn't necessarily like a colleague or a manager that you have. Your coach has been brought in to help support you succeed. And if the coach is doing their job right, okay, they're not being your best friend. They're asking you tough questions and they're giving you the reality of what they're seeing. Oftentimes we're so involved in things that we have these blinders right here. We're just so in it because it's our experience and world. But the most obvious things are right there, right next to us. A coach can help bring those obvious things right into our line of sight, okay? So in our workout plan, we definitely want to seek unbiased feedback. This feedback is going to be our way to really motivate and kind of help us grow in areas that we're not just comfortable with. We get outside our comfort zone, those sorts of things. And the last sort of area in your workout plan is we want to create the capacity to train and the consistency in training, okay? Capacity is a tough one. This is another reason why I would leverage a digital solution, because capacity right now is very tough, especially if where everything's going is more virtual, remote, e-learning, okay? Capacity to train is sometimes tough. When I work with people and I say, okay, we want to do a new process or we want to try on this new habit, it's less about implementing the new habit when first we have to sort of look for where we can fit it in. We have to move capacity one way to open up areas for another. Okay, that's why sometimes it's very hard for us to prioritize or add on to new things. It's because it's all so full all the time. All right, and your digital solution is great because it fits into capacity better. You've got on-demand solutions. You can train at different hours. You can train on different devices. You're scheduling. You can schedule things when you can most optimally train. And so we've got to create capacity. Consistency is another one. Most people are sort of just expecting, expecting things to come after doing it a couple times. But if you ask any pro athlete, they didn't just train 1 day a week or 2 days a week. It was, 6, 7 days a week, consistently. Anything you've gotten better at. Think about anything that you do really well. The chances are is that you've been consistent and you're staying through it and you're giving it more and more tries and goes as you continue. So in our workout plan, again, we want to make sure that we are focused, we know what we're measuring, okay, and that we're seeking unbiased feedback while creating the capacity and the consistency to continue training. Let's go on to our third way to increase your C factor. This one here is about looking for help. Look for help. Okay? This one's kind of tough for a lot of us, okay? And you can look for help in a couple of ways. We're going to go platform, we'll talk about that again, and people. Don't go it alone. That's one of our values in our company. Don't go it alone. Collaborate. Don't go it alone. Don't think you have to do it by yourself. Don't go it alone. And so we want to talk about a couple of different ways, all right? When you look for help, you actually streamline your mastery, okay? When you bring others in, you get there faster, okay? So if getting things done fast is your sort of prerogative, then you're definitely going to want to bring some other people in. Doing it yourself is not going to be faster, okay? First, let's talk about platform. This is an interesting concept, right? This is an interesting concept here, the platform you choose. In sports, what was interesting when I started coaching business leaders and managers, what I was noticing was that in sports, we got to train 6 days a week and then play and perform in a match. And when we trained, that's where we were able to try on new strategies, test out new things, and really sort of suffer consequences but no impact. And what I found with leaders and managers was that, they were having all these great trainings and, going to these workshops and trying these things on, but they weren't translating it into actual experience and getting it going. And so what we found was that there was no practice environment. There was no safe environment where you could try conversations, practice them, and not put all your professional equity on the line, when it most counted. But go ahead and find that safe environment. So that's why, again, your platform, your digital solutions can oftentimes be that safe environment that allows you to go ahead and try new things on or say something in a different way that maybe you wouldn't have. But now that you can do it in a safe environment, you can look at the results from it and then determine whether or not you want to add it in to what you're doing. Let's talk about people. When we look for help, we look for people, and that's sort of like a coach. And I've had plenty of coaches in my days, and I can tell you they've all done some tremendous things. Let me tell you a couple of things why a coach would be somebody you wanted to look out for. First of all is they'll keep you accountable. Okay? They'll keep you accountable to your training. It's like that friend or buddy you have that, you didn't feel like going and doing this thing or going to work out or, going for a walk, and they come along and they say, no, let's do it. Come on, I really want to do it with you. And you're like, you know what, afterwards, that was great. Thanks for pushing me to go ahead and do something I knew that was beneficial. I just really wasn't staying accountable to it. And so a coach can keep you accountable to your training program, check in on you, see how things are going. A coach can also help you translate some of the data, translate some of the metrics that you're seeing, translate some of the information you're getting from it, and be able to sort of help you understand what you're looking at, what's going on, and why, how does this all make sense, okay? A coach can also ask tough questions. Coaches should be asking tough questions, make you think, challenge your assumptions. Propose something to you that makes you speak it out loud. And sometimes when we say it out loud, it clicks for us a little bit better. And so a coach can help ask tough questions. The last thing a coach can do is really bring in focus. A coach can really bring in focus and help kind of isolate on a key area. They're saying, I know you're good at this, you're struggling here, let's focus right here. Let's train here, let's do this. And that sometimes can be the best. Instead of training on all sorts of areas, you want to really get refined and get into a small area, okay? Now to round us out for our last way to increase your C factor, don't settle. Don't settle. Don't settle on a program or doing something for a little bit and then just saying, great, I've mastered it, or yep, I completed that program, I'm good, don't have to talk about it, don't have to touch it again. Don't settle. This was something that all sort of people who get to a level of mastery, they're focused on really the long term. Okay? They're focused on sort of not the short term, but the long term. I tell people, don't settle. You're not Amazon Prime. Okay? It's not going to show up in 2 days. You want to make sure that you're in it for the long term. And in doing that, you may want to create a sort of maintenance program. Okay? You want to have a maintenance factor to it. Okay? To stay sharp. Yeah, sure, you don't have to go and do, work out 5 days a week, but a maintenance program would say every other day a week. Or maybe moving it down from an hour to 30 minutes. You want to stay sharp so that you're continuously creating that impact that's ongoing with your teams and really creating the momentum you need to generate great things with your group. Okay? So again, C factor is your ability to perform. We know it's important because that's, you're in conversations most of your day. And conversations actually have the ability, right? They're like a conduit for relational aspects. They really generate a lot of empowering things, okay? Now, how do we increase it? We have a workout plan, all right? We've got to get organized, got to get a trainer, okay? We want to stay focused on what matters, the 20% giving us the 80% feedback, okay? We also want to make sure we're measuring the right things. Confidence and self-awareness, all right? Are we getting better? Do we know when we're in that zone or not? Confidence and self-awareness are key areas, okay? We want to seek unbiased feedback. It's tough, but it gives us a lot of insight, and it's great when we put ourselves out there so that we can really not be subject to assuming we're doing things. We want to get unbiased feedback. We also want, in our workout plan, to make sure we create capacity. Okay, we want to make sure it aligns with our schedules. We want to make sure that it's not creating a disruption. We want to be consistent with it. We want to make sure that it becomes habitual. Okay, so we really want to make sure that that's involved in our workout plan. The third thing to increase our C factor, look for help. Okay, look for help either in technology to give us the right way of getting that workout plan, or in people, finding a coach, somebody who can really take it up the next level, keep you accountable. Okay? And usually that's the best thing to do right off the start. I know that when I'm looking to go and get back in shape, the first thing I do is I get a coach to get me through that sort of initial phase of where I know I might let myself down. And the last thing again is to not settle. Focus on the long term. Don't settle on just some of the short-term gains. Make sure we're looking long term. We're looking to something that becomes a part of who we are. We're staying sharp, and we have a sort of maintenance plan to keep us going. Okay, so I'm looking forward to experiencing how you all increase your C factor. I'm happy to talk with anybody about it. Please connect with me in any sort of way, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. Connect with me. I like having discussions about this. I can help you look through different ways and methods. And always feel free, come take a look at some of the digital solutions we have as well to do some of this conversational training. We've got some great great solutions to it. Feel free to it. Subscribe on YouTube. We'll be putting out some more content on there as well. I appreciate everybody taking a little moment out of your day, and thank you again, and very humbled to be allowed to speak to you today. Have a great day.